everybody. Welcome to the Training, Learning, and Development community. Happy Friday. We made it. We're here. It's Friday. Thanks for joining us. Let's see. We've got a few people in the audience. Good to see. Margie's there. Taruna, nice to see you. Melissa, Sky, Chuck. Gosh, welcome you guys. This morning, we have our guest is Jaime Villanueva, and we're doing a member showcase. So as you guys know, we've got like about 30 minutes to talk to Jaime. We're here to learn more about him, and also, I'm going to post his LinkedIn profile in the chat area. So if you guys want to connect with him, that'd be great. But Jaime is a Silicon Valley trainer. He's a L&D professional out of the Bay Area, which is I'm just an hour away from him, probably hour and a half or so. He's in South San Francisco, and he has a pretty interesting career. It seems like he's worked for a lot of the biggies that are in the Silicon Valley, like Facebook, PayPal. Let's say I know you were KLA, Tencor. You've just done all kinds of stuff.
Thanks.
Yeah, and it's really intriguing talking to him. I don't get a lot of the Silicon Valley folks in. I mean, I've had people from Google at our live events, but never in our virtual broadcasts. It's kind of rare. So this is a great opportunity to meet somebody from this area. And I do have questions about specifically that, Jaime. I have questions that are specifically about you and your career, but then we're going to get a little bit into Folios Rock, and then also just you as an instructional designer in the Valley. So yeah, let's get started.
Sounds good.
Yeah. So you've been a corporate trainer, instructional designer. You've been in this space for like over 20 years. What's like your favorite part of being being in L&D or being an instructional designer? Your favorite part of it?
Yeah, I think I started off as a technical support engineer because I've got an electrical engineering degree, and I had spent 13 years in the semiconductor industry. And, 3 of that initially was as a support engineer, and I was really good at it. And the reason I think I was good at it is because I just love learning, period. I love just soaking in new technology, and I got a chance to learn a variety of sciences, from robotics, electrical systems, spectrophotometry, anything that ends in Y. In the sciences field, I pretty much had to take on, but loved it. And what was cool was that led me to travel all around the world as a service engineer, servicing equipment and whatnot, installing them, that kind of thing. But I was so good at it that my company asked me to train others to do what I was doing and however way I was doing it. And that's what really started it off. And I found out that I love teaching, and I love helping people get to a level where some subjects or topics or sciences which were completely foreign to them all of a sudden make sense. And so after kickstarting that in the semiconductor industry, doing that for 10 years, I decided I'd go, spread my wings. And then so I went off into the latest and greatest technology, which was internet and so social media and e-commerce and whatnot. So I have, another 10, 15 years background sort of in software and internet and cloud systems and whatnot. And so I consider myself a pretty technical training design developer. And it's awesome because I don't know how many of you guys are involved in the technical field, but I can tell you that if that's something that even interests you, I want to encourage you guys to pursue it, because honestly, that's where the big bucks are at. You know what I mean? Because everyone, we've all done our share of like onboarding or compliance training or, some level of, simpler product type training. But once you get into the realm of technical training, there's a very few set of people, if you were to look at the world of training designers and developers, you get that typical histogram curve, right? The bell curve. And you've got, this huge number of people that's sort of in the middle and to the right of that curve. And I'd say the last, quarter, 25 percentile of that curve, um, there's some serious money out there. And that's because our world right now is very, very technical, right? So I come from Facebook and Wells Fargo and KLA and who else? PayPal. And these guys, you know what? It's all software. It's all software systems. And so I want to encourage you guys to really start looking into that and just expand your world. And believe me, once you start to tiptoe or put your toes into that deep end of the pool, I think you're going to be happy, very happy and surprised, because there's just a whole new world out there. And right now, those are the kinds of things that excite me. And maybe we'll get a chance to talk a little bit about some of the things that I'm involved in right now with regards to Folios Rock and my community platform and whatnot. So,
yeah. Let's see. So yeah, Kim is saying making geek speak engaging and accessible is a true art.
Oh my God, yeah.
So let's discuss that a little bit. So Facebook, PayPal, Wells Fargo, KLA, Tencor. I mean, what kinds of things have you done? What are these? What can you give us some examples of what kinds of projects that you've worked on?
Yeah, well, the latest and greatest was at Facebook. I was involved in their AR, VR world. AR stands for augmented reality. VR is virtual reality. And so, oh my God, that was one of the most fun projects I was ever involved in, because, I had to learn the product, right? Which means that they made me take home an Oculus set,
force you to do it
and play with it and kind of understand, what all the technical requirements are with regards to how the products were built, any safety issues around the product, because if you guys know, you have to wear a full-on headset and you can't see anything, right? So there's some safety issues, privacy issues around that. And these are really high level sort of sensitive areas for companies. So, and the sensitive areas I'm talking about are things like safety and privacy, understanding like the idea of just collecting data from all, their millions of users, what that means for a company, right? So when you start talking about these kinds of things, these kinds of issues that are very current and relevant today, right? You've got GDPR stuff happening. You've got Facebook being hauled into the government to testify in front of Congress about their privacy policies and things like that. If you can speak eloquently and knowledgeably about those subjects, again, it puts you in a different sort of class, right? Because the subjects you're talking about are very relevant, they're challenging, they're top of the mind topics, trending and controversial and whatnot. But it just speaks to sort of the exposure that you have as a professional, right? And the experience that you have, and that's a valuable asset to have for yourself, right? To be able to speak like that. So hopefully that answered your question. That's just at Facebook, right?
Right. Yeah.
And if I was to go back a little further, PayPal, was facing similar things, right? I mean, they're collecting financial information. They're dealing with credit, right? We're dealing with money laundering. We're dealing with privacy issues again, and so on and so on. And so, again, these topics that I bring up are current, they're relevant, they're very high level, right? They're not getting into the minutia of, I don't know, like, not to put down onboarding or anything, but we're not talking about, how to use Google Docs to to collaborate. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
there are two different levels of how I or someone like me would have contributed training content and programs, the impact is just a little different, right? So if you have a chance to pick and choose projects and whatnot, definitely take a look at the projects that you're involved in and the level of impact that they're having. Because I'll tell you, you build a couple of those up, or even one. If you build up one, like I did a gig with Apple Inc. over in Cupertino, and it was about supplier responsibility. Well, supplier responsibility is about making sure that the minerals, the gold, the metals that were being mined out of Africa, that those companies were not exploiting people for slave labor and things like that. And I had to learn about that because that was happening in Africa, in China, in various parts of the Pacific Rim area and whatnot. And again, it's just a different vibe. It's like it's very, again, high level sort of people, social issues focused. And I think having that sort of exposure really allowed me to move into these companies that have these high level sensitive, sort of areas of the company. And once you get into that area, I think the doors are just going to like fly open, because then you become like an expert because you've been there, right?
Yeah.
Not only did you develop training content for it, but you actually have to understand the policies, the impact, and yes, some of the technical things that go around it, right? So
Wow, that's really, really interesting. Is there a particular project that you can that you could mention that you're especially proud of, something that you've done that maybe stands out a little bit for you?
Yeah, what's interesting? I recently did a project for Facebook. It was called a Safe Workplace Awareness, and it's funny because although that starts off sounding like, oh, that's an onboarding program, right? Like everyone needs to know how to be safe around their workplace, right? Well, so we developed this Safe Workplace Awareness training, but lo and behold, Facebook realized that this training that we put together was not conducive to those who were visually impaired. Okay. Right? And so Facebook has been in the news. I don't know, you guys, they've been in the news for social issues, their hiring practices, right? Making sure that they are treating the community who have various impairments with equal, attention and so forth. So here's a program that honestly just needed to be revamped, redesigned so that people with visual impairments can access the content in the course without much hassle. Now, it was awesome, and I'm especially proud of it because, number one, again, this is a topic that escalated itself to not the technical aspects of creating the training, but it really addressed human people issues. This was like live, very relevant and whatnot. And so I ended up redesigning the program so that it enhanced the navigation, so that it enhanced so that we put in additional audio to guide the person taking the course. We put in additional closed captioning, and then I set up the quizzes so that it's very keyboard friendly, right? Mm-hmm. So that, because they can't use their mouse as well as, us, right? Who don't have visual impairments. So accommodating for them and putting in all those accommodations, it took a little while. It was a bit of a challenge, but I'm especially proud of it. And you can find that on my portfolio. So
that's great, Jaime. I'm really happy to hear that, because that's a big topic for a lot of folks right now. It seems like accessibility is just a major thing. I'm going to paste in. We're actually doing TLDC is going to do a big accessibility event on July 9th.
Oh, nice.
So for anybody that's interested, check it out. It's free registration, and And it's an important one. I think a lot of things that were happening recently in the community really kind of led a group of us to want to put something like this together. But
Yeah.
I'm really, really glad that you brought that up. And that's
Yeah.
interesting. You must have done a ton
Hey,
of work, and you had like checklists and everything.
and here's the thing, right? Okay, for those of you who have a passion for serving people like in this manner, I can tell you right now that if you become a specialist in accessibility, in building accessible training programs and content, I can guarantee that companies will come clamoring at your door, right? Because there's so few training designers right now that can actually claim that that they've done something like that, right? And that they've made an impact, right? Create a couple of portfolios or samples that say how you address accessibility issues, whether it's for the hearing impaired or for the visual impaired, or some sort of mobility impairment and whatnot. Oh my God, you will own that. You could probably launch a company just based on that. Okay, because I mean, you look at elearningindustry.com right now. You look at who all the content providers are. Everyone's providing the same, but no one, for whatever reason, has addressed this. It's like, go do it, and then go send an email out to all the HR folks at all the top companies. Guaranteed, you're gonna get business. And
Man,
it's crazy. Okay, that's the kind of that's the kind of valley we live in. So anyway, okay, that's all for you guys.
That's a whole separate other broadcast, Jamie.
Yes.
We could be talking about that. That's awesome. I'm really glad to hear that you have some background in that, and it's great how you were passionate about trying to serve people in that way. I love it.
Yeah. And how awesome is it to like earn a really decent income and be able to serve that underserved community. And I'm telling you, it's so ripe right now because, I mean, being an insider at Facebook and Apple, I mean, these companies, hopefully, I'm not trying to bash them or anything like that, because I loved working for Facebook. They are ripe right now to make some major changes in these areas because they've been talking a good game, but it's been difficult for them to live up to it. So I think as a training, design, and development community, it kind of falls on us to help them get to that point. You know what I mean? So it's like, let them know that there are some experts out there, however few there are, and whoever these few are, they'll own that space.
Wow. No, that's great. That's good to know. I mean, we wanted to put this event together just because there's a group of us that know that we are really lacking in our ability to regard sort of, the things that we're building with a view for accessibility and inclusivity. And so it's one of the reasons why this event is going to exist in July. And we have some great speakers already. And so hopefully you can join us.
I was just, if I could chime in real quick, I was just looking at Chuck Jones's comment where he goes, I work for the government. Accessibility is not as easy as it seems. Lots of factors to consider. You know what? That's a beautiful thing to say, because anything that's not easy means that it deserves the kind of compensation that is equivalent to how difficult it is to produce. And I can guarantee you he's absolutely right on. It is not easy because these are not areas that we're experts in, but the ability to provide solutions for these things is like, it's crazy. I'm telling you that you could develop a whole, segment within the learning and design community just around accessibility. So I'm really excited to hear who your presenter is on this topic of accessibility.
Yeah, we've got a couple authors and stuff, and we're just figuring it out ourselves because there isn't a ton out there, and so it's a big deal. I'm gonna, I mean, we're totally sort of, going a whole different direction, but I'm gonna post in this this checklist that Webflow sent me, and it's a really interesting checklist. Webflow is a no-code solution that I use for my website, but just look at that checklist, and you can see there's some very simple things that you can do to make sure that the things that you're building are accessible, and but it's time consuming.
Yeah.
And you just have to keep it top of mind. And it is important. I work my day job. I seriously send out millions of newsletters every day. And I need to have accessibility in mind more often. And so it's one of the reasons why it's very important for me to get this event going.
Yeah.
So let me get back to you, Jamie, because I want to
awesome.
I want to learn more about you. Are there some things that you wish you had known when you had started out in your career? That you know now? I mean, it seems like you are a wealth of information. Every time you've been on this broadcast, you just like throw stuff out there, ton of value.
Oh, thanks. You know what? I mean, often, growing up, my dad had always encouraged me to be an electrical engineer. I don't know what it is about Filipinos and whatnot. As a Filipino, you're either going to grow up, a nurse, doctor, dentist, or a lawyer, right?
Yeah. For some definitely not a musician, though.
Yeah, not a musician. Too many of those, but he always encouraged me to be an electrical engineer, and I have had some regrets as to kind of following that path, but honestly, every time I do think about it, it's led me to where I am today. The struggles, the trying to figure out who I am and whatnot. And, in my mature age right now and where I'm at, I'm just thankful that, I have a wonderful family, 2 girls, and I've got great relationships with them and have had the chance to travel the world. And now I'm looking to, sort of build my own platforms and monetize them and in a way that helps other people, right? So it's not all about just me producing product and like, oh, okay, go monetize it and make money and that's your sole goal. It's like, no, that's not me. It's like, I want to build something that will help the community of training designers and developers, because it's been so good to me that I just want to see other people succeed and like, just have the fire and like, be able to maybe someday like meet in person and just share war stories and talk about things the way we are now, not in a Zoom sort of format, but live, and just have a good time about that,
Yeah, no,
so
that's great.
So that's what's driving me now. And yeah, we all have our regrets, but really once you put it into perspective, I think you are where you are because that's what's meant to be.
That's interesting. Well, prior to you coming in as working technical support and doing all that, what other kind of jobs did you have?
I mean, those were it. That was it primarily. I gotta say, it's funny. I think back in the 80s when the market crashed, right? I mean, there were like layoffs everywhere. And so I was one of the unfortunate ones that was part of that. So I did take some time to get my real estate license, and I dabbled in real estate a little bit. I was a mortgage broker for a few years, and it's like, that's an interesting business as well. You can make a lot of money on it, but like everything in life, you have to have a real solid passion for it, right? That's what divides or determines who does really well in one particular area versus another. And but after the market recovered and whatnot, I quickly went back into training, design, development. So.
Wow, that's I have to mention, you've been around long enough so that you were kind of like almost pre-e-learning. You were kind of like getting into it when stuff was being tossed around on CD-ROMs and
exactly.
Yeah. That's so you've seen the change, right? Can you talk about that a little bit? When you started out, you must have been doing some blended stuff or some fun.
I don't even think blended was a word that you could attach to learning, right? I mean, when I was doing training, so this brings me back to my semiconductor days. These trainings, because they were very technical, it was pretty much stand-up type training. And, thank God for PowerPoint. You still have that. But for the most part, I mean, we're working with paper, right? So we're talking about just paper everywhere and schematics and whatnot. And my content was like, anything from 1 week long's worth of training to 2 to 3 months long worth of training, because it's very, very, very technical. It's funny because as internet started coming along, my eyeballs and brain was just like exploding, because I'm going, oh my God, we can replace all this paper with stuff that we can put on a computer, and then the internet was coming on and we can share it out to everybody and this, that, and the other thing. And that was sort of my discovery as to what the future of learning would look like, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That's pretty crazy. I mean, I can remember those times too. I never really, I wasn't officially a trainer when I was working in manufacturing, but I do remember when we got like a dozen, Windows PCs in. I'm like, wait a minute, I can bring the guys in now and I could build a website to teach them how to load these machines. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That was a big deal.
Right.
Wow.
Right.
So let's see. Kim is actually asking, she's got a question in here.
Sure.
How do you find like the opportunities that you found? She says she's guessing your network or your connections help.
Yeah. I'm really big into agencies. And the reason I'm big into agencies, I got to do a video on this someday. And I think it'll be helpful because I use agencies because I don't have time to go search for opportunities, right? I mean, I want the opportunities to come to me. So I take very good care of my LinkedIn profile, number one. And then I also take care of my profiles in the big search engines like Career Builder and Monster. I think I used to do Dice at one point, but I didn't like Dice because the quality of the projects there wasn't as good. I think they were looking for very low level type projects. So have really good profiles, have really good resumes uploaded on Career Builder and Monster. That's worked for me. And the agencies will come looking for you. And primarily, 80 to 90% of these opportunities are going to be contract work. But 10% of them are going to be full-time, and honestly for me, when I run into full-time positions, that's because it's something I searched out myself, but here's the thing about agencies, right? If you're sort of, I don't know, a quarter of the way into your career in training design, I suggest use agencies because it's like they do a lot of the work for you, right? And also, I think I gave this tip out the last time I was on the call. Always negotiate the rates up front. Don't have them waste their time. A lot of them, they'll go, hey, I've got this great opportunity, this company, that company, and, all the details, right? But they never mention money. I always mention them. If you were to watch my workflow at home, I get all these emails and I use Spark for my email client. And I love Spark because it allows you to create template responses, right? So an email comes in, it's a job opportunity. I don't really care who it is because no one talks about money. I immediately reply with my sounds interesting template. And it says, hey, great opportunity. I want to learn. I want to learn more. There's 3 questions I ask all the time in my template. Who's the client? And I ask them, what is the max pay rate? And then is it a working from home situation? Simply because it's COVID right now, right? But that immediately, I always get a reply back who the client is. I want to know who the client is because I want to be choosy about who I work for because I'm building a portfolio of in my career path that showcases some pretty cool people, right? So those are three very important questions that you want to ask. It's a template. It's just a click and it automatically sends, right? So I get like 10, 20 of these a day, and it takes me, I don't know, if I was to add it all up, I don't know, maybe 15 minutes in total to reply automatically to 20 agencies. So it's just a smart way of getting your name out there. And believe me, if you're doing like a bunch of these, and you're going to get them, take care of your profile on Career Builder and Monster, and you're going to get these coming in. So, but the power is in your hands, right? Because when you ask for those three questions, it immediately shows that, hey, you're not there to mess around. You understand the business. You're asking all the right questions. You care about your career. And if they don't respond, you immediately know that they're not for you, or it was some low level, client that you're not going to be interested in anyway. So screening is like a really, really great way to manage your career and manage your projects. So
wow. No, that is really, really good stuff, Jaime. Now I want to give you some time. We got to talk about Folios Rock because to me, it's really intriguing that you've got all of this career advice. I mean, just incredibly valuable stuff that you're willing to share. And then you're building a platform that helps instructional designers build their portfolios. So we don't have a ton of time, but let's talk about that.
Yeah. So, I just encourage you, for those of you who are interested in looking at what I feel are good portfolio sites. Go to foliosrock.net, and I think there's a special still going on where you can sign up, and I think it's LinkedIn Connect is the coupon code that'll allow you free access to it. And this is part of this business that I'm trying to set up, right? So once you're on there, you can sign up and you can be part of that community that's interested in folios and the work that training designers and developers are doing. It's relatively new, so I'm still in the process of like getting it going and whatnot. But from there, sign up. You can either create your own folio, and there's some templates there that you can select from on how you want to start off with your portfolio. But I think what's key is in the template, it puts in key places that you should consider putting your content on, right? So things about your background, what you think of things like ADDIE, or workflow, or, how to lay out your folio and your menus. All of it is done for you. And the reason why I did this is because, a lot of training designers and developers, they either don't know how to, work with a web host or, build their own site, whatever the case may be. I take all of that out and I manage all of that, or our platform manages all that. And so that you can focus on just building your portfolio. But for some of you guys who do have portfolios, take a look at it, and then also give me some feedback, because I could be missing things, or, help me grow, put the right messages out there and make whatever changes I need to make to serve our community of training designers and developers. That's the whole idea.
Wow. So that's basically your why. It was just kind of like you've been in this industry or in this profession for a while, and you just wanted to help others by building a useful tool.
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly. Yeah. I mean, there's a need for that. I mean, I look at some of the messages that go back and forth in LinkedIn. Some people think that you need an LMS to create your portfolio. Some people don't understand what a SCORM file is and what it does and whatnot. And these are things that I think we as training designers and developers need to know. I mean, you almost need to be an expert, not an expert, but very well versed on internet technology, right? HTML, XML, CSS files, those kinds of technologies. Yeah, you don't need to be an expert, but you need to know how to work with it, right? Like you need to be able to understand XML. Like SCORM files are driven by XML and HTML, and so and these are honestly the kinds of things that I would like to spend more time on. I either on LinkedIn or on YouTube, and my thought is probably everything's probably going to end up on YouTube, and then it gets dispersed out to Folios Rock and LinkedIn and all these other social media sites. So,
or you can build a course,
or I can build a course. Yeah. There's so much to do. You got, it's like go be a designer, developer, go be an entrepreneur. It's like, but it's a wonderful thing to be busy. So
yeah, oh yeah, if you say so. No, I know the feeling. It's like got to get some sleep at some point.
Yeah.
Well, Jaime, I really appreciate your time. Thanks. You were always an incredible guest. You have so much to offer, especially for newer IDs and for folks that are on the job search and that type of thing. And you're right. I mean, I'm getting requests from people saying, do you know anybody? I'm looking for 3 people right now for this opportunity. And there are opportunities out there. It really is important to be able to know how to get yourself out there. And gosh, you are a great resource for that. So
thank you.
Hopefully this broadcast or this episode can help some folks out there. If you want to reach out to Jaime, please connect with him on LinkedIn, and then also bookmark that foliosrock.net. Share it out there, get it out there to other folks that you can help serve. And that's it.
Yeah, and I mean, hey, thanks, Louis, for having me on. And I love all the comments on here. Jaime, can you ask my boss for a raise? Would be happy to. Give me his number. Anyway, love being on your show, and would be happy to come back anytime. So.
All right. Yeah, maybe we can talk about some of the things you learned at the on accessibility, because that event's going to be a fun one.
That's awesome. Thanks, you guys.
All right, everyone. Thanks. Have a great weekend. And we have lots more member showcases set up. I think we've probably got about 20 already in the on the schedule. So we're booked through August. So we'll see you guys next time.
Awesome. Bye.
Bye, everyone.